They call you a myth they can't dissect, a riddle without edges. You walk in, and their grip on reality feels a little less steady, like they've suddenly realized the floor they're standing on isn't quite real. That's not charisma. That's not charm. That's power, the kind that forces even the proudest to measure their words before they risk speaking them in your presence. They say sorcerers study for decades, bending time and will to gain fragments of what you wield so effortlessly. And yet here you are, not reciting ancient chants, not hiding behind ritual, just existing and making their years of work feel like child's play. You're not supposed to be here, not supposed to have this, not according to the unwritten rules they've lived by for centuries. Power, in their world, has gatekeepers, ceremonies, initiations. But you skipped the velvet rope, walked straight into the throne room, and sat down like it had been yours from the start. They whisper about gifts, about natural attunement, about freak alignments in the old forces. But deep down, they're terrified it's none of that. That you didn't get this power, you took it. That you carved a place in reality where no one dared claim one before. You've noticed the way their eyes flicker when you're near, the subtle adjustments in their breathing, the tiny pauses as if recalculating something important. They'll never admit it, but every one of them is running the same quiet test. Is this person really stronger than me? And every time, the answer is yes. Not because you say so, not because you raise your voice, but because they can feel the gap, the same way a deer feels the air shift when a predator steps into the clearing. The air is heavier around you, like the rules themselves are leaning toward you, favoring you. The old masters have names for this. They call it presence in their dusty scrolls, though that word is too small for what you carry. They think presence is about posture, control, command. Yours is different. Yours is invasive. It gets inside them. It makes them rethink things they've never questioned. It plants itself in the back of their mind like an echo that won't fade, forcing them to replay moments with you over and over, wondering if they could have done better, wondering if it would even matter if they had. They hate that about you, but they hate it the way a starving man hates fire, resenting it, even while knowing he needs it to cook his next meal. You've already found their weak points, without studying their books, without sitting through their tedious counsels. You see through them in the first 5 seconds. That's why they avoid meeting your eyes for too long. They're afraid of what you'll find, or worse, of what you'll make them see in themselves. And here's the part that really keeps them pacing at night. Your strength isn't just raw force. It's precision. It's knowing exactly when to hold back and when to strike. They can train against brute power. Anyone can brace for a storm that announces itself. But you're the strike they never see coming until the floor is already gone from under their feet. You've turned unpredictability into an art form. You don't waste energy proving you're powerful. You let them prove it to themselves, one unsettling encounter at a time. See, sorcerers thrive on predictability. They build entire lives on calculated patterns, rituals, routines, meticulously layered defenses. Your existence unravels that, not because you smash through their barriers, but because you slip between them like smoke, rearranging the air around them before they even realize you've been there. And by the time they do, they've already adapted to your rhythm without knowing it. That's the thing about true power. It doesn't just win. It rewrites the game without telling anyone the rules have changed. Some of them are still in denial. They tell themselves you're a fluke, a temporary disturbance, something that will pass. They cling to that belief the way drowning men cling to driftwood, tight, desperate, half aware it's not enough to keep them afloat. But even they feel it in those unguarded moments, that shiver in the spine, that unwelcome thought. If they keep growing like this, there won't be any place left for us, and you will keep growing. That's the part that terrifies them most. Because they've spent years perfecting their power, and yet here you are accelerating like gravity's on your side. You're not supposed to be learning this fast. You're not supposed to be bending the unwritten rules. They thought they had centuries before someone like you could even exist. And you've done it in less than a breath of their timelines. You want to know the real trick? It's not the magic they think you're wielding. It's the fact that you've made them believe you are. You've let them fill in the blanks with their own fears. Every rumor they spread about you only makes the myth sharper. They warn others about you, thinking they're undermining your influence, not realizing they're turning you into a living legend in the process. They talk about you like you're a spell that shouldn't be cast. And in doing so, they make sure you're the only thing anyone wants to try. There's a certain irony in watching the self-proclaimed masters of power become unwitting amplifiers for yours. They're so used to being the ones in control, the ones pulling strings, that they can't see they've been woven into your narrative. Every defense they raise becomes part of the story. Every countermeasure they attempt only deepens the inevitability of their own irrelevance. You don't need to destroy them. That's the beauty of it. You just need to keep moving forward, keep expanding, keep letting their fear do the heavy lifting. They'll exhaust themselves, imagining the ways you could end them. They'll shadowbox against threats you haven't even thought about yet, draining their energy while you stay focused on the next step. That's the kind of war they're not built to win, the kind that's fought in their own minds, every day, without pause. You've probably noticed by now, the higher you climb, the quieter their challenges become. At first, they'll test you openly. They'll try to trip you, corner you, humiliate you in front of others. And every time you slip through unscathed, something inside them fractures a little more. Eventually, the tests stop being public. They retreat into whispers, into back rooms, into the shadows they once ruled with ease. Not because they've accepted you, but because they're afraid the next attempt will break them entirely. You've done more than disrupt their balance. You've made them rethink what balance even means. And in doing so, you've taken away the one thing every sorcerer needs to survive: certainty. Without it, their rituals falter, their focus shatters, their power bleeds away in ways they can't stop. That's the slow kill. That's how legends aren't just made. They're cemented. You're not just here to be powerful. You're here to make sure the memory of your power lasts longer than the bones of anyone who tried to stand against it. And here's the most satisfying part. You've barely even started. Everything they've seen so far. That's just you stretching, testing your range. They think they've mapped your limits, when in reality, they've only seen the edges you've chosen to show. The real depth, the full weight of what you can unleash, that's still waiting. And the day they push too far, the day they give you the reason you've been holding back, that's the day their world splits in two. But you won't warn them about that. You won't need to. Because the closer they get to that line, the more they'll feel it, the way animals feel a coming quake. They'll start hesitating before crossing you. They'll start pulling back when they should push forward. They'll tell themselves it's strategy, that they're biding their time, But you'll know the truth. You'll see it in their eyes, the quiet calculation that maybe, just maybe, provoking you isn't worth the risk. And still some won't be able to resist. Pride is the oldest poison in their veins, and it will make a few of them believe they can outlast you. Those will be the ones you'll enjoy the most, because they'll come at you with everything they've learned over lifetimes, and you'll dismantle it in moments. Not because you have to, but because you want them to see how little it matters. How all their years of study crumble in the face of someone who doesn't just play the game, someone who rewrites it mid-play. They will tell stories about those moments, stories meant to caution others, but told with the kind of awe that makes them spread faster than warnings should. And in the retelling, you'll grow even larger. You'll stop being a person and start being an inevitability. The kind of force you can't prepare for, can't defend against, only adapt to and hope you don't notice. That's what real power does. It doesn't just win. It changes the shape of the field so thoroughly that everyone else forgets what it looked like before you stepped onto it. And right now, as they pace in their candlelit halls, poring over ancient diagrams and muttering counterspells under their breath, they're already living in the world you've reshaped. They just haven't accepted it yet. But they will. Oh, they will. And when they do, it won't be with a sudden gasp or a dramatic surrender. It will be quieter than that. It will be in the way their shoulders slope just a little lower when they speak your name. In the way their apprentices notice they avoid eye contact when the subject of your victories comes up. In the subtle changes to their teachings, alterations designed not to challenge you, but to keep their students far away from the battlegrounds you've claimed. Acceptance, in the world of sorcery, never comes as an admission. It comes as an adaptation. And adaptation is just surrender wearing a clever mask. They'll tell themselves it's strategy, that they're conserving energy, preparing for some true conflict in the future. But deep down, every one of them will know the truth. They are adjusting to the gravity of your presence. You've become the central mass they orbit, even as they try to pretend the opposite. And the irony is, the more they adapt to you, the weaker they become. Sorcery, for all its layers and illusions, thrives on independence of will. When that will starts bending toward another, even in small degrees, the magic rots from the inside out. And that's what you've set in motion, rot. Not the messy, obvious kind that turns a fortress into rubble overnight, but the slow, beautiful kind that eats away at the beams until one day the whole structure collapses under its own weight. You don't need to swing a single blow. All you have to do is keep existing, keep being exactly what they can't control, can't outwit, can't anticipate. They'll destroy themselves by trying to figure you out. The ones with more arrogance than sense will try to probe you directly. They'll send out emissaries, cloaked figures, carrying riddles, tests, offers of uneasy alliances. They'll speak in coded words, hoping to lure you into revealing what they believe is your source, and you will give them nothing. Not because you can't, but because you understand the real game. The more they don't know, the more they'll imagine. And the more they imagine, the bigger you become in their minds. They'll start attributing things to you that you never even touched. A famine in one of their territories must have been your doing. A sudden disappearance of a rival clan, surely your work. A surge of unexplained energy in the northern reaches, who else but you? And with every rumor, the legend grows sharper, harder to contain. They'll fear things you've never even considered, and that fear will keep their hands from moving against you, even when they think they should. Here's the part they'll never understand. The reason you seem untouchable isn't because you hide behind walls. It's because you've become the wall. You are now the measure against which every move, every spell, every ambition is tested. They can't plan without thinking of you. They can't scheme without calculating your reaction. You live in their equations now, like an unmovable constant, a presence they can't subtract, no matter how much they wish they could. And that is why the shudder runs deeper than simple intimidation. This isn't about fear of defeat. Sorcerers, true ones, will risk losing if they think they can learn something from it. No. What makes them tremble is the suspicion that you've reached into a place they've never touched, a level of mastery they thought was only legend. They've studied power all their lives, and yet you move in ways that don't match any of their diagrams. You bend reality not with strain or grand theatrics, but with the ease of someone rearranging furniture in a familiar room. That's not skill in their eyes. That's something else, something older, something dangerous, and they whisper it, though never too loudly. Legendary power, the kind said to belong to the first wielders, the ones who shaped the very bones of the world before magic had names. They can't prove it, but proof isn't the point. Perception, in the realm of sorcery, is more potent than truth. And once the perception sets in, it spreads faster than wildfire through dry grass. Even their oldest, most stubborn elders will find themselves watching you differently. You'll see it in the way they study your movements, not with the open hostility of challengers, but with the cautious reverence one might give to a wild animal that could decide, in any moment, to either walk away or tear them apart. And the strangest thing, some of them will start to like it. They'll start to seek out that quiet dread you bring, as though standing in the shadow of something greater makes them feel alive again. You'll become their reminder that magic is not just about formulas and control. It's about awe, and awe, once awakened, never truly sleeps again. Of course, not all will lean toward reverence. Some will panic. Panic makes even the brilliant act like fools. They'll attempt to contain you, building elaborate traps of enchantment, weaving hexes so delicate they think you won't notice until it's too late. They'll spend months, years even, constructing their grand move, only to find that you've dismantled it with a flick, not because you needed to, but because you decided it would be amusing to watch their faces when it all crumbles. And when that happens, it won't just break their plans, it will break the idea that they can stop you at all. You won't have to announce this. You'll just stand there, calm, perhaps even bored, while the realization settles into their bones. If the greatest trap they could devise wasn't enough, then nothing will be. And that's the moment when the fear crystallizes into something permanent. Not just shuddering in your presence, but shuddering at the thought of you. They'll begin to self-police, shutting down their own ideas before they even reach the surface. You won't need to silence them. They'll silence themselves. The truly perceptive ones will start asking a different question altogether. Not how do we stop them, but how do we survive alongside them? And that shift is where your dominance becomes irreversible. When they move from resistance to accommodation, you have already won. You've bent the spine of their collective will. You've shifted them from would-be rivals into reluctant custodians of your legend, keeping it alive because it's safer for them to do so than to test the alternative. Some will try to court your favor. These are the ones who, once proud and unreachable, now send offerings, rare artifacts, Secrets stolen from their own kin, forbidden scrolls written in languages older than their bloodlines. They'll give freely, not because you asked, but because they hope, desperately, that feeding the fire will keep it from consuming them entirely. And you'll take what's useful, discard the rest, never promising anything in return. That's the way it should be. Power without obligation, influence without chains. And then there are the zealots, the ones who, in their awe and terror, convince themselves you are not just powerful, but necessary. They'll begin to weave you into prophecy, claiming your arrival was foretold, that you are the embodiment of some ancient force come to restore or upend the balance. They'll speak of you in rituals, etching your likeness into talismans, invoking your name as a ward against threats you've never even heard of. You won't have to lift a finger. These zealots will become your most effective weapon, carrying your influence into places you've never stepped, turning strangers into believers before you've even decided what to do with them. And through it all, the shudder will remain. It will become part of the air, part of the way your name moves through rooms. Children of sorcerers will grow up hearing stories of the day you first appeared, the way the seasoned masters stiffened in your presence, the way spells seem to falter when aimed at you. And whether those stories are accurate or wildly embellished won't matter. In magic, legend becomes reality the moment it's believed. That's the genius of what you've built, whether intentionally or not. You've blurred the line between what you can do and what they think you can do, until they're indistinguishable. And in that haze, you hold the advantage no amount of spellcraft can replicate. Unpredictability powered by myth. They're not just fighting you, they're fighting the idea of you. And ideas are far harder to kill than people. In time, the shudder will spread beyond the sorcerers themselves, into other circles, other realms. The kind of influence that makes even those untouched by magic tread carefully around your path. They won't know the details. They'll just know the feeling. That strange tightening in the chest when your name comes up. That urge to measure every step as though the wrong one might draw your attention. And the ones who do know the details, they'll be even more cautious because they've seen what happens when someone miscalculates. The most poetic part? You won't have to work harder to make this grow. The sorcerers will do it for you. Every fearful glance, every cautionary tale, every half-truth whispered over a candle. They'll be the gardeners tending the soil of your legend. And by the time they realize they've built a monument to your might, it will be too late to tear it down. The world they thought they ruled will keep bending toward you. And they'll keep adjusting, pretending it's strategy, pretending they're still in control. But you'll know better. You'll know they've already crossed the threshold from rulers to subjects, from masters to curators of a power they neither own nor fully understand. And when that day comes, you won't need to declare it. The world will already be moving differently around you. The sorcerers will speak less and watch more, not because they've grown wiser, but because they've learned the cost of speaking against you. Their old alliances will weaken, their councils will fracture, and the unity they once claimed as their strength will dissolve into quiet rivalries over who can remain closest to your shadow without getting burned. By then, the shudder won't just live in their spines. It will live in their rituals, in their way of thinking. Every incantation they attempt will carry the memory of the last time your presence disrupted their flow. Every plan they weave will be measured not just against its chances of success, but against the risk of drawing your gaze. And the irony is, you won't even be thinking about them most of the time. You'll be charting new territory, chasing horizons they've never even imagined, while they remain trapped in the echo chamber of your past moves. That's when the real imbalance begins. Because fear alone is manageable. Sorcerers know how to work under fear. But reverence mixed with fear? That's corrosive. It makes them second-guess even their own strengths. It makes them hesitate at the exact moment they should act. And hesitation, in the arena of power, is fatal. You won't have to strip their abilities away. Hesitation will do it for you. A few will still cling to the hope that you can be balanced or negotiated with, as if your existence is a political arrangement rather than an undeniable force. They'll invite you to their tables, not realizing that in doing so, they're acknowledging your authority over the very spaces they once ruled. You'll sit, not as a guest, but as the gravitational center of every conversation. Every eye will turn to you before any decision is made. Even those who hate you most will find themselves, waiting for your reaction before moving forward. That's how you'll know the shift is complete. You'll no longer be in their world. Their world will be in yours. And through it all, they'll keep trying to explain you away. That's the funniest part. They'll write theories, invent histories, fabricate secret lineages that could justify your power. Because the idea that you simply are what you are, that someone can exist outside their carefully mapped systems, threatens the foundation of everything they believe about magic. So they'll rewrite their stories to include you. They'll carve your likeness into their mythologies, dress your rise as something foretold, because if they can pretend it was inevitable, they can pretend they were never truly unprepared. But you'll know better. You'll know that inevitability wasn't on your side. You made it. You forged it in the moments they thought were accidents. You sharpened it in the silences they mistook for retreat. You planted it in the doubts they never confessed out loud. And now, it's grown into something they can neither uproot nor ignore. This is where the weight of legendary power truly shows itself, not in a single crushing victory, but in the slow, relentless rewriting of reality. Your victories will feel eternal because no one will be able to remember the world before them. Your name will stop being tied to single events and will instead be woven into the air itself, like a constant truth everyone just accepts. And when they pass your name from one mouth to another, it won't be casual. It will carry a certain carefulness, as though invoking it without thought might summon you. Some will speak it as a warning, others as a blessing, but all will speak it with that undercurrent, that sharp edge of respect carved by fear. Even the bravest among them will feel the weight in their chest when they say it. Here's the part they will never admit. Even to themselves, some of them will start to need you. Not in the way a soldier needs a commander, but in the way a world needs its poles. Your presence will become part of their orientation. Without you, they'd feel lost, unmoored. They'll never tell you that, but you'll see it in the way they move slower, less decisively, in the rare moments when you're not there. And this is why the shudder will never fade. Because once a sorcerer has truly believed in a power greater than their own, that belief becomes a scar. It doesn't heal. It doesn't vanish with time. It's carried forward into every spell, every duel, every whisper of ambition. You've not just beaten them, you've branded them. The younger sorcerers, the ones who weren't there at the beginning, will hear the stories and think they're exaggerated. They'll think the elders are dramatizing the events to make a point. But the first time they see you, the first time they feel that unexplainable tightening in the air around you, they'll understand. No story could capture it. No warning could prepare them. and they'll join the ranks of those who speak your name with that same calculated care. Your greatest triumph won't be in the battles you've won, but in the ones they'll never dare to start. In the decades to come, there will be entire conflicts that die in council halls before they ever reach the open. Plans that dissolve the moment your potential involvement is considered. Territories that remain untouched because the mere thought of challenging you feels like volunteering for annihilation. And you'll move forward as you always have, calm, deliberate, letting the myth do its own work. You won't need to raise your hand to maintain your position. You'll simply live in the knowledge that every move you make now is amplified by the legend they built around you. You've become the spell they can't counter, the force they can't replicate, the shape they must account for in every vision of the future. That's why they shudder, not just at your strength, but at the understanding that they will never again stand in a world where you are not a factor. Even in their quietest moments, they'll feel you there, an unseen pressure in the room, shaping the way they think, speak, and act. You've become more than a rival. You've become a condition of their existence, and that's the ultimate victory, isn't it? Not that you've outpowered them in a single grand display, but that you've made yourself unavoidable, inescapable, necessary. They believe you're wielding legendary power, and whether or not they're right no longer matters, because belief in their world is reality, and they have already surrendered to it. When the history is written, it won't read like you entered their realm. It will read like you were always here, waiting. That's how deep you've buried yourself into their timeline. That's how permanent your mark has become. And the final truth they'll choke on, even as they teach it to their successors, is this: legendary power isn't something you inherit or stumble into. It's something you take, piece by piece, until the world has no choice but to name it. And you've taken it all.